Daniel and the king's food. Israel and Judah were two countries that God had made special for him. He had been so very kind to the people who lived there. But the people were ungrateful and unfaithful to God. They turned away from him to worship false gods. The worship of these gods involved many evil practices, the worst being unfaithful to the one true God and their Father. In time, God allowed the Babylonian army to invade the land and conquer it. They ransacked Jerusalem and carried off precious things from the temple of God. They also carried off all the noble and important people and the strong and healthy to take back to serve their king in Babylon. Among these people were Daniel and his 3 friends. It must have been awful for these teenagers to be taken away from their homes, friends and families. They could easily have blamed God and turned away from him, but these youngsters were faithful to God and were determined to love him still, in spite of anything that might happen to them. The king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, wanted to have new servants from the captives that arrived. He wanted only good-looking, healthy and clever people. Daniel and his 3 friends were such people. They were chosen to speak the language of Babylon, to learn about its culture, and to study its literature. Nebuchadnezzar even gave them new Babylonian names. He wanted to turn them into Babylonians and to forget all about their homeland. In order to keep these chosen people healthy and strong, Nebuchadnezzar ordered that all these chosen ones should have the finest food and wine. This is where Daniel and his 3 friends had their faith first tested. They were determined not to eat food that had not been prepared the way God had taught them back in Israel. And they didn't want to drink the wine either. So they told this to the man who'd been put in charge of looking after these new students. Daniel asked him to give them only vegetables and water. The man was afraid to do this. He was sure it would make them appear weak and unhealthy, and he would get the blame. This would mean his execution. Daniel, being a very wise young man, suggested that he serve them with this food for 10 days. If they began to look sickly and weak after this time, then they would eat the food ordered for them. The man agreed. After 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and stronger than all the others. So they continued to eat just vegetables and water to drink. The youngsters had put their faith in God, and again God had proved himself totally trustworthy. When you think of it, they were making a big sacrifice for God. They would have sat with others who were eating such very tasty food and drinking refreshing wine all the time they ate this very basic diet. Yet they didn't waver. They were willing to give it all up because they were devoted to God. I wonder how many of us would make such a sacrifice. And we must remember that Daniel and his friends could easily have turned away from God because of their bitter experiences. Also, they didn't know how in just over 500 years, God would enter our world as Jesus Christ. They had no idea how Jesus would come as a servant and even die on a cruel cross so we may be forgiven all our sins. These men had enormous love and faith in God. They went on to show this in future years. It's a great challenge for us, isn't it?
My God will supply all your needs. My God will supply all your needs. My God will supply all your needs. It says so in the Bible. Philippians 4 verse 19. Philippians 4 verse 19. Philippians 4 verse 19. It says so in the Bible. I can close my eyes and I can touch my nose. I can roll my tongue and I can touch my toes. Why did I turn up this way? I am not afraid to say I'm amazingly, wonderfully made. I can jump for joy and I can sit and cry. I can ask a question, I can wonder why. Why did I turn